Here with Matt Lindland at the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Honors Weekend, and congratulations, Matt, on this great honor. I'd like to kind of start at the beginning with your wrestling journey. Just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in wrestling, and what about the sport motivated you to try to get better at it?
Well, I kind of got into it, not really as I was going after wrestling. It was just more something to do after school in junior high, seventh, eighth grade. We had a wrestling program for like 6 weeks, and the cool kids from the high school came and helped run the program. So I showed up. It was a couple of my neighbors that were like the varsity guys in high school, and they were helping our coaches in Redland School teach us to wrestle, and never thought much about it again until my freshman year of high school. And kind of the same thing. It was like all boys had to do a wrestling unit, and it just kind of coincided with the beginning of the wrestling season. So
Right.
they probably lied to me, but they said, "You're really good. You should come out for the team." And so here I was, a 98-pound freshman, going out for a wrestling team, I figured out I wasn't bad. I wasn't really good, I can tell you that, because I just started. But as a freshman at 98 pounds, I was very competitive with the other guys, and most of them were freshmen. Every once in a while, you'd get an upperclassman in the lower weight classes. And then after the season was over, I thought I wanted to continue doing it, so I jumped in and started learning how to do the freestyle and Greco stuff, and somehow I went 0-8 in my first freestyle Greco tournament.
Yeah, four in each.
You
should
show
have
up
round
and-
robin 3 times.
Yeah, you show up and you do two age divisions, and
Yeah.
you can lose a lot of matches in a weekend, but I think that was probably what motivated me, was I didn't win a single match out of 8 matches. And I saw that there was a couple clubs, and just analytically I was thinking, well, I probably should go train with one of these two programs. And as a rural kid, it was quite an ordeal to get yourself to the club in Portland. So I would find my way over to that club, and I just never stopped. I just kept showing up, and ultimately, I mean, I just ran into a great club. The club I showed up at had Pavel Katzen at. It was 1985, and Pavel was our Olympic Greco coach in '84. Anthony Amato was our '88 Olympian, and he was there. Travis West would show up. I mean, there was guys like Dan Russell, who was a 4-time state champion, 4-time Division II champion. I mean, we just had a lot of talent at that time in Oregon. I don't see it anymore in our state. It's not pumping out like great wrestlers anymore. But there's one or two kids,
Yeah,
There's
sure.
Justin Rademacher kid
Oh,
at Oregon State.
That kid's really good.
Seems like he's going to be a
Pan
talent.
Am's, right?
Yeah, and he's out in my neck of the woods. He lives out by where I grew up. But other than that, that was kind of how it started, Gary. Just kind of found my way on the
They
mats.
used to do equestrian, right? I mean,
What's that?
Used to do equestrian, right?
Yeah, no,
How did you switch from that to wrestling? Totally different, or were they similar?
No, they're totally different. To be honestly with you, I was very competitive. I was one of the top riders, and I was the top rider in our state at that time. But it was a very expensive sport, and my parents informed me that we were not financially well off enough to do that sport at a high competitive level. If I wanted to just have fun and ride, which I did, I enjoyed it.
You still ride some, I'll bet. Huh?
I still do. I love animals. I love horses. I had very supportive family, but they weren't like super involved.
Right.
I think things have changed a lot, where now everything's like parent driven, family driven. It was just kind of like, oh, you want to do wrestling? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
And sounds like fun. Go do it. So I was really about just taking up opportunities, and the more you look for opportunities, the more competition you get, the better the competition, and all of a sudden, you're in national tournaments and you're competing at higher levels, and that's kind of how it happened. And then coming out of high school, I certainly wasn't good enough to wrestle at a Division I school or anything, but that was really the goal. So I ended up going to Clackamas.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You did do the junior college route, and actually, you're still really close to that program, right?
Yeah, I
really
mean,
care.
it's
Why was that a good place for you to go after high school? Because obviously, it opened more doors for you, right?
Well, that was certainly one thing it did. It opened, local community colleges in your neighborhood are great, and then if they have a wrestling program to go with it, it's even better. In Oregon we have 3 semesters. They call it trimesters, and it fit my schedule. I was able to show up in the fall at the start of the season and wrestle in the winter season. And then I had to pay for school, so I'd go to work in the spring and summer at the sawmill my first year, and then I did Brickland my second year. And my third year, I had to get my associate's degree so I could move on to Division I school. And so I ended up doing all 3 semesters my second year there, and ultimately ended up going on a lot of recruiting trips, but chose Nebraska.
Yeah, talk about your time as a Husker. A lot of good people have come out of that program, including people you either were part of when you wrestled there or part of when you were coaching there. What was cool about the Nebraska experience for you?
Well, I knew that if I wanted to get to the level I was looking to be at the highest level of wrestling, I needed to get out of the West Coast. I needed to head out east somewhere, and I didn't get too far east, but got in the middle of the country. And Nebraska, I loved the fact they had a really good football program. So when you have a good football program, there's going to be some money poured into the other athletics, and so athletics were very supported at Nebraska. It was a huge part of what they did was, they supported athletes there, and they just showed me, I could get an education and I could also wrestle for that program. So I was happy to be there. I had a great program, coaches. Mark Cody ended up being the coach my personal coach throughout my Olympic program. He was our assistant coach there. He's in town this weekend.
Oh, great.
To celebrate with us. He's going to be one of my speakers. I don't know. I just knew that if I wanted to get better at wrestling, I needed to travel. I needed to move. I needed to be in a good conference. So just looking forward, thinking about, how am I going to get better? And that's kind of all you're doing when you're in athletics is you're always like trying to figure out what's the next step? How can I get to the next level?
Well, Greco ended up being that for you. Why Greco? How did that? I mean, you did. I know you won a university freestyle tournament.
Yeah,
so.
I won two national titles in freestyle before I ever won one in Greco. My college coaches really wanted me to wrestle freestyle, and I enjoyed Greco just because of my upbringing with Pavel kind of being one of my first coaches, really. And I think that the training of Greco-Roman helped me develop as an athlete. There's so much more contact that you're wrestling more, and in freestyle you're kind of out and then you're in and then you're out and then you're in. You take these shots and these attacks, but everything else is from distance. Greco-Roman is like this constant contact, and you're making these micro battles for position all the time. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the intensity of that sport. I thought it was a little more intense, and I also thought it was a little more artistic with the lifts and the parterre positions. And I don't know. I see myself as more of a martial artist than just a wrestler. It's like.
Well, yeah. As your career developed.
But even coming up, I really honestly was one of the things that drew me to the sport was I could use it to defend myself. I could use it to, protect others. And it's like growing up riding horses. You never really. You're out in the woods or you're in the farm and you don't really. But then when you go into town, you got to deal with people. And sometimes, like Portland, you head into Portland, you might be dealing with some people, and you want to be able to defend yourself. And so that's why I kind of really was drawn to the wrestling sport.
So, and you wrestled well for a long time in Greco. You did training center time after you left Nebraska.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
I mean, and then you got to travel the world. I mean, wrestling
for sure,
Greco-Roman, man.
I loved it. You know, right after college, Mike Hauk invited me to be a part of the resident training program at that time, and as soon as my daughter was born, 2 weeks later, we moved to Colorado Springs, and you know, spent a couple years there up until '96 trials, and I didn't make the team in '96. Made national team, but I didn't make the team, and so I wanted to get back with my coaches. So I left and went to Nebraska and spent a quad there. I helped coach the college team, and that was where I did most of my training. I did a lot of camps in Colorado, though.
Yeah, but you're the peak of your wrestling career as an athlete. It was the end of that quad when you won a silver medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, it was right after '96 trials. It was like '97, '98, '99, 2000. Yeah. I was
Great
on
years.
every team.
Right.
I was competing for medals every year.
Well, talk about the Olympics. I mean, you got on a heck of a run to put yourself in the finals and a chance to win it, and beat some really good guys and some exciting matches. What are your memories of wrestling in Sydney?
Oh, my memories of wrestling in Sydney were mostly just being part of the team. We had a really great team. We had
a bunch of medals for our Greco. Was it 3 guys?
We had 3 medals. Yeah, we had Rulon and Garrett Lowney, and I was just part of that really good team. Even the guys that didn't medal, we had some quality. Like Kevin Bracken was right there, and you know, we had some quality guys. And just being a part of that and being with all my teammates, and even the guys that weren't on the team that were training partners, just being a part of that experience at the games in Australia was a pretty fun event. I don't know how to explain it other than it was a lot of stress getting on a team, Gary, and once I was on the team and finally set to compete in the games, it was like I was just totally at peace and relaxed. And I think that's probably what ultimately helped me perform the best. Was I think there was so much stress and chaos.
Well, you had to get a turn at a key point in one of your matches, and you got it, right? And that doesn't always happen in Greco. Sometimes people are able
Sometimes they don't give you parterre like in the finals until the last 20 seconds against Cardano.
But, I mean, yeah, no, you had some real clutch moves too, and maybe that was your being relaxed, huh? I mean, just...
I think so.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Next year you go up a weight, you win another medal, right?
Yeah, but I learned a lot of lessons the year before, and I realized, you know, I'm just going to move up a weight. I'm going to have fun. I didn't cut a single ounce of weight to make 85. And I learned how to relax and enjoy the fight, enjoy the process of getting out there and competing. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform before that, and I started to learn how to just relax and compete and have fun.
Talk about your journey into MMA. I mean, you not only were a good MMA competitor, I mean, you helped organize MMA events. You were really active, and you didn't go the same route everyone else did. You went to different organizations.
No, I really did, Gary. I saw that opportunity early on in '97. Right after the trials in '96, I said, well, I'm going to fight after the trials. I took 3 fights. And they were, at that time, there were no hold bars fights. These weren't even...
Yeah, they're crazy. We got one of the legends in here. Mark Coleman's going to be kicking
Mark's one of those same guys that fought with those rule classes. And Mark and Randy. And
yep.
there were some guys that were pioneering that sport. You know, Mark Kerr and Don Fry. I mean, there was just a lot of guys that I knew, I looked up to, and they were great wrestlers. But I was like, that looks like something I can do. And I jumped in, I took 3 fights. And I was like, I had some goals that I wanted to meet. So I didn't fight anymore till after the games. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Lotnick was at the games, and he was doing the commentary, but he was also doing the commentary with the UFC at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, can you get me a contact or a number? And he said, I'll make some calls. And 3 months after the games, I was fighting in the UFC in Japan, and just enjoying you know, the opportunity to compete and get paid to compete.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a key thing that a lot of the wrestlers that go into MMA say, I mean, this isn't a sport where you're not rewarded financially if you're great at it, right?
Yeah, I think at the early days it was a little harder to make I mean, I made a living. I wasn't getting rich or anything.
Yep.
And then the company switched owners, and politics get involved in sport again, and then all of a sudden, I'm fighting all over the world in different organizations, and yeah, I was more of a free agent. There was a time in MMA where the UFC wasn't necessarily the only show in town.
Yep.
So,
especially overseas, right? Some of the
oh yeah, there was a lot of opportunities to fight all over Europe and in Japan and Asia. So I just took opportunities and kept competing, and enjoyed that process a lot.
So, I mean, in addition to leading our Greco team for quite a long time and working with our highest level Greco guys, I mean, you've been a coach with younger kids. You talk about the role of coaching for you, because you've made impact in a lot of ways as a coach, not just as an athlete.
Well, thank you, but I really think my passion for coaching was probably because I had such great coaches.
Yeah.
I really saw how, the best coaches are really, they're transformational rather than transactional. Like, I've had both, and the guys that have been transformational in my life are guys that are here this weekend that I'm still friends with, and so. I mean, my junior college coach, my high school assistant coach is coming out here. My college assistant coach is coming out here. I mean, it's. I think that's what gave me the passion for coaching, and it really changes kids' lives when you can make an impact on their lives, and show them something that they never thought of. But it's not just about teaching them the sport; it's teaching them about overcoming obstacles, facing adversity. And the struggle is part of the process.
Oh yeah.
So teaching those lessons and letting them learn those lessons on their own, and putting them in the athletes in environments to where they're going to be challenged, they're going to be pushed, they're going to be able to do more than they think they're capable of, and get better results than they even think they're capable of. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I've coached at kids level, to Division I level, to the Olympic programs, and whether it was the Sydney Games, the Tokyo Games, or the World Championships in between. And now I'm back coaching kids again. And right now that's really where my wife and I are having our most fun, is that we're working with the youngest ages in some of the poorest neighborhoods in Portland, and we're changing kids' lives and teaching them martial arts. And we teach wrestling, we teach boxing, we teach kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu, and we expose kids to all martial arts, and then once they get a little older, they can start picking a path that they want to go down, whether it's wrestling or MMA, and I've had athletes choose all options above.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I always enjoyed working with you as a coach. I mean, we worked together.
Yeah, we worked together for years, Gary.
That was a lot of fun. To be honest with you, we had a lot of things go on that people don't get to experience if they're not involved in something like an organization like USA Wrestling. But hey, I mean, overall, what's it mean to you when you got the call and said, "Hey, Matt, we want to put you in the Hall of Fame"? First of all, there aren't a ton of Greco guys here, but there are some of the big guys that you've dealt with as an athlete or a coach. What's your thoughts about this weekend and the ability to share it with your friends and family?
Well, I think it's always an honor to be recognized by your peers and say, hey, this is one of the guys that have made a big impact on the sport, and in this time period, and following the footsteps of guys like Rick Sanders, and I mean, there's been some great wrestlers throughout history that I looked up to, in the Northwest, So I just think that Fred Fozzard's another one of those guys.
You're on that list now, buddy. Right?
So yeah, I think it's quite an honor to be a part of that list of guys that were guys that I looked up to when I was coming through the ranks, and so maybe I'll be one of those athletes that inspires the next generation.
Well, awesome. Well, congratulations, Matt.
Thank
I'm really happy for you, and certainly this should be a fun weekend. Look forward to seeing all your family and friends too. Thank you.